Another day closer to the NBA draft lottery and another day of a key NBA draft prospect officially declaring for the 2025 NBA draft. And the Philadelphia 76ers might have their eyes all over this prospect if he is in that 5 to 6 range that the Sixers could potentially pick. To preface the beginning of this video, as always, with the Sixers pick this year, it has to fall with the lottery balls between 1 and 6. If it falls below 7, it will go to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Today's prospect that we're going to talk about could be in the market, could be in the range for the Sixers if they do pick number 5 or number 6 in this upcoming draft. And that is sophomore 6'7 forward out of South Carolina, Colin Murray-Boyles, officially declared for the NBA draft this morning. Polarizing prospect, not the exact word to use, but there are people kind of split on him. I think there's a lot of people invested in him. Do I think he is worthy of that number 5 or number 6 pick? We'll get into that. But as you see here from Jonathan Givony announcing this earlier today, Colin Murray-Boyles declares for the NBA draft a projected top 10 pick, a 6'7 forward here out of the University of South Carolina playing in the SEC. And when I think of Colin Murray-Boyles and what I've seen from him over the past 2 years, the first thing that comes to mind for me is just his motor and his willingness to play hard. His last ever game at South Carolina this season against Arkansas in the SEC tournament. Bloody nose, bloody lip, and he's just out there still competing, playing on one leg. He had an injured leg as well. He's a guy that just goes out there and gives everything, and that's something that you just can't really teach. That's something that's in you, within you, and you don't get out of every guy. Like, not to bash on Paul George in a video like this, but Paul George isn't a guy that's out there screaming effort and wanting to be there every single step of the way. A guy like Colin Murray-Boyles, he comes in and he's a potential kind of culture changer, brings that toughness and identity to the Sixers squad that, for better or for worse, that they've lacked in the entire Joel Embiid era. You bring in a guy like PJ Tucker to be rough, be tough, and potentially change some stuff up. He had his moments, he had his mark. Not the greatest basketball player on the floor. Colin Murray-Boyles probably a much better player, much more skilled player. But the Sixers need to bring some more toughness and attitude to this roster. And especially in the front court as well. Murray-Boyles is probably projected to be like a 4, maybe a 3. I don't know if he's athletic enough in terms of guarding those ISO heavy wings like a Jason Tatum, like a Jaylen Brown, someone kind of in that regard. But he can play the 4, and I think he's strong enough, and he's got that NBA body already to kind of go in to the NBA right away and contribute. His glaring hole in his game right now is his jump shot. But if we just don't focus on his poor outside shooting and look at everything that he does well, it's an intriguing prospect for sure. As we said, 6'7", 245, already got that NBA body, averaged 16.8 points per game, 8.3 rebounds per game, only 2.4 assists, but I think that's a little bit misleading. He's a guy that has great vision. I think he's a player that gets the ball in face-up situations, whether it's on the baseline, whether it's on the wing, whether it's at the top of the key, and he can not only create for himself, but create for others as well. And a really efficient from the field, 58.6%. He's a guy, when he gets the ball, he's going left more times than not, but also creative enough to kind of finish around the rim and get to his spots. As we said, the glaring hole in his game, that 3-point percentage from deep. 0% his freshman year, went 0 for 5, and then this past season, 26.5%, only on about 30 attempts throughout the entire season. So he's got a glaring red flag in his game, and that's something that he's certainly going to have to work on. But as I said, with Colin Murray-Boyles, and what I really like about him the most, he brings NBA-ready skill set from day one in terms of his motor and just ability to play hard. You throw everything out the window, he's a guy that's physically gifted enough, and just his willingness to be able to go out there and play hard night after night, that he can contribute on this Sixers roster from day one next year. And I think that alone should put him in that kind of number 5 to 6 mix. They need a guy that's able to contribute right away, and he is able to do that. I think he's crafty enough with the ball in his hands. He does rebound. He does play really hard. He's a guy that you can feel comfortable throwing out there on the floor and just being like, go out there and get us some buckets. Go out there and get some rebounds. And he's able to do that. Let's work on that jump shot. Let's continue to improve. And with comes, hard work on the floor and having a motor, there's got to be a work ethic there behind that as well, that as a Sixers fan, as a Sixers coaching staff member, as a Sixers front office member, you have to have some confidence that that jump shot eventually is going to come around. Obviously, it is a glaring red flag in his game, but outside of that, you look at this player, and I think he's a really fascinating potential prospect and fit on a Sixers team that needs some front court depth and some size in the front court as well. All these videos where we're talking about guards and wings potentially, the most commented thing underneath these videos is the Sixers need more size. The Sixers need more kind of depth up front in the front court. People have been clamoring for Derek Queen. Malawach was a guy that people have been talking about. A lot of people in the comments haven't been very fond of potentially getting another guard. Here's a forward that could be in the mix there at number 5 or at number 6 if the Sixers are fortunate enough to be picking and they're not from 1 to 4. I would probably take I would at least have Murray-Boyles in conversation, in consideration there at that number 5 or number 6 overall pick. Most complete thing about his game, I think, is just his face-up ability, his ability to not only drive to his right, not only drive to his primarily his left hand, but also get to his right, use his body to finish around the rim, use both hands to finish around the rim as well. I think he is a gifted scorer already from day one, and that's something that is, not really teachable. He's got that really good feel for the game, but also the ability to kind of create for others. So Murray-Boyles, very positive prospect in terms of what he brings to the court already. And if that jump shot comes around, there's a high ceiling there for this guy. The comparison for him that's been thrown around and that I've seen and, just watching him alone is Julius Randle. It's a pretty easy one there. A left-handed 6'8", 6'7" forward. Good face-up ability, not the greatest shooter, but a skill set that could potentially come around too. So that's kind of the comp that I would throw out there for Murray-Boyles. And when you look at the last thing I want to bring up, the big board, the other potential prospects kind of in that range. All right, so we said, most likely if they're picking number 5 or 6, Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey. I'd be shocked if any of those 3 guys are still on the board. From there, it's kind of pick your poison, as we've talked about with a bunch of other videos. VJ Edgecombe out of Baylor, Knipple out of Duke, Kalaman Malawach out of Duke as well, Trey Johnson, Kasparas Yakachonis, Derek Queen. Those are all guys that are going to be in the mix as well. You see Murray-Boyles down here a little bit more on the Tankathon big board at number 13. But Jonathan Givoti says he could be a projected potential top 10 pick. Asa Newell, a guy that we haven't talked about on the channel yet, also declared. I think those 2 guys are going to be kind of battling it out there for the first potential 4 off the board. Igor Demon, who we've talked about as well. It's after those top 3, I think for the most part that's a consensus top 3 in this draft. After there, it can kind of go any shape, any which way direction. So Murray-Boyles is a player that is certainly going to be monitored and considered, I think, if the Sixers are picking in that 5-6 range. So my goal here over these next few weeks, find as much and give you guys as much info on pretty much these top 15 guys for the most part and what they could bring to the table, because I think any of those guys could be in the consideration there at number 5 and number 6. Jeremiah Fears has declared, Jace Richardson has declared, Newell's declared, Murray-Boyles, Igor Demon, Liam McNeely. All these guys have already declared. Every single player on this list actually has already declared, besides Malawach, besides Cooper Flagg, and I believe besides VJ Edgecombe. I believe both Rutgers guys have officially declared. But, it's going to take something wild and catastrophic for all 15 of these guys not to be in the draft come June. So just big picture-wise, kind of looking at the big board there, he's a player that certainly is going to be in the mix and be in conversation for the Philadelphia 76ers. Is he a great fit? I think he's a pretty solid fit. Ideally, you would want to add more shooting around Joel Embiid. But a player at the 4 that the Sixers could need, he could be a guy that starts from day one. If you want to roll out the lineup of Tyrese Maxey and Quentin Grimes, bringing Jared McCain off the bench, Paul George at the 3, Murray-Boyles at the 4, and Joel Embiid at the 5. It might be a little bit of a smaller lineup, but he adds some size and some strength there in the front court, especially if a guy like Yabusele walks. That's a big hole there at the 4. So something certainly to monitor. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I know you guys have been craving some size in the front court, some different kind of players other than some shot-making guards. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. As always, please drop a like, drop a subscribe. We'll be talking plenty more prospects coming up. I promise to hit on all 15 of those guys at least, and then we'll definitely be diving into some of the top-tier second-round picks as well, because the Sixers have a pick definitely there at the top, and just hopefully for now, fingers crossed, prayers up, that the lottery balls fall in the Sixers' favor.